You ever sit down to just read some short stories and suddenly find yourself negotiating with chiefs, debating independence over Chibuku beer, and memorizing apartheid statutes like you've got a final exam on Monday? That was me with this collection. I thought I was signing up for Tenderness. Turns out Tenderness arrived holding hands with power, politics, and a very sharp memory. But first, Bessie Head starts by telling us why she even writes the way she does. And she does it with the kind of clarity that makes you put the book down, stare into space, and say, well then. The opening piece, Let Me Tell a Story Now, isn't just throat-clearing, it's her manifesto. She longs for a world where she can simply write about people, not as damn white or damn black, but history won't let her off the hook. Hear her in her own words.
If I had to write one day, I would just like to say people is people and not damn white, damn black. Perhaps if I was a good writer, I could still write damn white, damn black and still make people live. Make them real. Make you love them, not because of the color of their skin, but because they are important as human beings.
She tries honestly to write a simple story about an ordinary couple who never took the train, and then politics barges in like a noisy neighbor. She confides,
well, there it is. I would like to write the story of the man and his wife who never took the train, but I can't. When I think of writing any single thing, I panic and go dead inside. Perhaps it's because I have my ear too keenly attuned to the political lumberjacks who are busy making capital on human lives. Perhaps I'm just having nightmares. Whatever my manifold disorders are, I hope to them sorted out pretty soon because I've just got to tell a story.
And with that, she does tell the stories, 21 of them, set across South Africa and Botswana, crossing from neighborhood gossip to national ideology, from religion's gentle embrace to its dogmatic chokehold, from communal traditions to the individual heart that dares to love against the grain. Before we dive, here's the quiet biographical truth shaping every page. Bessie Head was literally born into South Africa's Immorality Act, a black father, a white mother, a relationship the state called illegal. Her mother was confined to a psychiatric institution for suspicion of psychosis, but the real symptom was loving across the color line, and died there. Bessie was shuttled through foster homes. She only learned the truth because a cruel principal decided to make a performance of it. Later, the state handed her an exit-only visa, leave but do not return, and she spent 15 years in Sorowe, Botswana in poverty with her son, before finally being granted citizenship. When she writes about tenderness and power, she's not theorizing. She lived under the boot and still chose tenderness. So, we open on neighborhood life in South Africa. Oranges and Lemons shows a township ecosystem kept in balance by necessity. Everyone knows everyone. Violence and theft are common. Yet somehow, within that pressure cooker, a fragile equilibrium holds. Disturb that, and you don't just get a spike in crime. You get the onrush of far bigger problems. The story understands how apartheid doesn't just brutalize individuals, it distorts the very physics of community. Then Snowball enters. A story where one character is made to carry a whole community's contradictions. Snowball is an ex-convict turned Christian, not the loud-hailer type, but the thoughtful one who actually lives his faith. Through him, Bessie skewers religious dogmatism and honors a religion that is porous, humane, and open. It's Bessie's way of saying faith should expand your heart, not police it. In Sorrow Food, politics shows its hand. It is the profession of last resort for the opportunist, the refuge of those who can't or won't live by other honest means. The very people who fought oppression can become its administrators. She's not cynical, she's observant. Power corrupts. And sometimes politics is simply the corridor that delivers corruption to the throne room. Botswana's presence in these stories is quiet, like its independence itself. Unlike many African countries, Botswana was a British protectorate rather than a conventional colony. That different history yields a different mood. In Chibuku Beer and Independence, the eve of independence feels subdued, no euphoria, no street-filling songs. People drink, talk softly, and avoid upsetting white folks. It's change, but carefully, almost apologetically held. Tao extends the conversation. South African students debate whether Botswana's incoming leader is truly nationalist or a polite accessory to old imperial dictates. There's even the murmured suspicion in some quarters that Botswana's government might be helping colonial interests against African nationalists. Head doesn't hand us answers. She paints the moods, the suspicions, the reservations of a people negotiating a delicate peace beside a raging storm called South Africa. Head is adamant that politics didn't start with parliaments. In a struggle of power, Davana, the more humane man must flee to live. It's a classic tale of power's jealousy. A period of darkness informed by Swana history shows the opposite endgame: people rising against a murderous king and ending his reign with finality. Bessie's thesis is piercing and generous. Power is not absolute in Africa. People have always exercised a rough living democracy. She writes,
But in that brief pause, a triumphant statement was made that people had always held a position of ascendancy in matters of government, that people had always lived with the glimmerings of a true democracy.
This insight echoes in the general, where a liberator curdles into a dictator and is overthrown in a coup. Same lesson, different era. The people make leaders, and when leaders forget, the people unmake them. Then comes Son of the Soil, a historical account that reads like a dossier. It recounts how dispossession became law in South Africa, how black people were pushed off their land and then forced to rent their own lives back to their usurpers. Head doesn't wave her hands. She quotes the 1913 Land Act spirit with brutal clarity.
No native shall have the right to hire or purchase farm, grazing or ploughing rights from a landowner. Any landowner who hires or purchases sick, farm, grazing or ploughing rights to a native is subject to a fine of £100 or 6 months' imprisonment. All native squatters on white farm land should be immediately evicted with their livestock and consigned to the road immediately the order of eviction is given. Cattle so evicted should remain without food or water till they are sold by their native owner. A native may lawfully find employment under a white farmer. Once a wage earner, a native's cattle may henceforth work for the landowner, free of charge. No native may wander about without a proper pass. A native's pass must be signed by a white employer to prove he is in legal employment. A native's basic wage as a farm labourer shall be 1 shilling per day. A native's basic wage as a mine labourer shall be 1 shilling and 6 pence per day.
Tell me law isn't a weapon. The story traces how Boer dehumanization became constitutionalized after British-Boer conflict, culminating in apartheid. Black people written out of the Constitution itself. And here's where I, your reviewer, pause to say post-apartheid leaders, including the revered ANC and Nelson Mandela, will be judged by posterity not only on reconciliation, but on whether they meaningfully addressed the land question. Head's history compels that reckoning. Oppression breeds resistance, sometimes quiet, sometimes volcanic. The coming of the Christ child stages one of those incandescent moments when polite nonviolence meets a counter-argument. A young man, later identified as Robert Sobukwe, breaks with the careful language of the day.
I wish that the truth be told. Our forefathers lived on this land long before the white man came here and forced a policy of dispossession on us. We are hardly human to them. They only view us as objects of cheap labor. Why is the word violence such a terrible taboo from our side? Why can't we state in turn that they mean nothing to us and that it is our intention to get them off our backs? How long is this going to go on? It will go on and on until we say, no more. Gentlemen, I am sick of the equivocation and clever talk of this organization. If anyone agrees with me, would they please follow me?
There's the split ANCS-aligned nonviolence versus the PAC's more confrontational stance, with a Marxist tint. Head doesn't romanticize either. She records the psychological surgery needed first, restoring Black dignity after centuries of ideological assault. The prisoner who wore glasses then flips the lens to everyday resistance. Black political prisoners outwit a white warder. It's witty and wise, insisting that intelligence, dignity, and adaptability are not the monopoly of the powerful. Laws can lie, human truth finds a way. In Village People, Head's realism hums. She animates droughts, seasons, and skies as metaphors for hunger, impotence, and the slow ache of poverty. But she isn't a prophet of doom. She indicts power, secular and divine, precisely because she believes those with power can and must do better. The tenderness is in the plea. The power is in the accusation. Her life slips into the fiction, too. In The Woman from America, you can almost glimpse her own vulnerability and the small mercies strangers offer. Chief Sokoto Holds Court, a story embedded in her novel When Rain Clouds Gather, captures a quasi-modern chief trying to arbitrate with reason rather than rumor. It's her nuanced take tradition can adapt. The question is whether custodians of tradition will let it. Property dramatizes a generational pivot. A young man chooses education over an arranged marriage and the inertia of how things are done. The Lovers pushes further. Two young people defy family arrangements and choose each other. The community reacts not out of cartoon villainy, but because communal life in this context is an intricate balance. Individuals are woven into the fabric, tug too hard and the cloth puckers. Head sees both the beauty of social capital and the violence of conformity. What makes these stories sing is the precise friction in the title. There is a tenderness that begs to be heard, the plea to see people as people, to recognize the ordinary holiness of a life unafflicted by the state's obsessions. And there is power, the naked machinery of chiefs and ministers and prison warders and acts of parliament that declare you a trespasser on your own land. Head holds both truths without flinching. She does not romanticize village life, nor does she mock it. She does not sanctify politics, she dissects it. The result is an anatomy of a region's soul, South Africa's trauma and Botswana's tentative calm, rendered with a modernist's realism and a humanist's mercy. Okay, book title reveal time. The collection is called Tales of Tenderness and Power, and it's about 144 pages long. It's a set of 21 short stories by Bessie Head, who was a South African-born, Botswana-based writer. This collection was actually published after her death by the Heinemann African Writers Series in 1989. Now, all the stories, except for 3, were first published in magazines before she passed away in 1986. The way the stories are arranged actually tells its own story. Bessie Head starts by explaining why and how she feels compelled to write. Then she takes us through neighborhoods in South Africa and Botswana. And from there, the perspective expands into politics, first focusing on traditional power and then moving into national struggles. This collection is necessary reading if you want to really understand Bessie Head. The craft is not about neat plotting, it's about truthful seeing. She writes with a scalpel and a lullaby in the same hand. The neighborhoods feel lived in. The political debates feel overheard at 1 a.m. in a dim bar. The traditional councils feel both sacred and dangerously human. And always that biographical undertow, born in illegality, exiled, impoverished, that gifts her an X-ray vision for hypocrisy and a deep patience for the ordinary person trying not to drown. I kept returning to those opening lines about wanting to write people as people. In a better world, these would be just stories. In our world, they are testimonies. Bessie Amelia Head, born in 1937 and passing away in 1986, was born in South Africa to a white mother and black father at a time when their relationship was criminalized. Her mother was confined to a psychiatric institution where she died. Bessie grew up in foster care and discovered the truth of her parentage through a humiliating revelation by a school principal. As a young woman, she received an exit-only visa and left for Botswana, where she lived in Siro with her son for 15 years in poverty before gaining citizenship. She died in 1986, heartbreakingly close to South Africa's democratic transition less than a decade later. Her body of work, novels, stories, histories, is a record of seeing clearly. She does not flinch, but she does not harden either. That balance is her gift. The 21 stories. Let me tell a story now. Oranges and lemons, snowball, sorrow food, Chibuku beer and independence, village people, the old woman's summer sun, the green tree, Tao, the woman from America, Chief Sokoto holds court, property, a power struggle, a period of darkness, the lovers, the general, son of the soil, the prisoner who wore glasses, the coming of the Christ child, dreamer and storyteller. There's a tenderness here that begs to be listened to, and it's precisely that tenderness that lets Bessie Head expose how rotten power can be, how casually cruel institutions become, and how stubbornly humane ordinary people remain. If you're studying Bessie Head, this collection isn't optional reading. It's the lens cap being taken off, and that's my review. If you've read it, tell me which story lodged under your skin. If you haven't, well, you know what to do next. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.